Welcome back to Built for Profit, guys. Today is going to be a fantastic conversation with Mr. Chaz. He's joining me from Palm Springs, California, and we've chatted just a little bit, obviously before the recording and in previous conversations, and he's doing some remarkable things in the property management space, buying businesses. It's going to be a very, very fun conversation. So, Chaz, number one, welcome to the podcast. And number two, if you want to kick us off by just saying, who's Chaz and how did you even get into the world of property management?
Yeah, thanks, Austin. Appreciate it and happy to be on. So I run a business called Grove, and Grove is a residential property management company. We have two operating businesses. One's in Palm Springs, which is called Coachella Valley Property Management. One is in Northern California in Fremont called East Bay Property Management. Across the two businesses, we manage about 1,300 doors,
Let's go.
and that's the overview of us. I'm happy to talk about kind of how the company came to be and go into it more if that's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Well, give us a 1 minute summary of like pre property management world. How did you even get interested in that? Like, were you in a high schooler thinking like, man, I'm going to go buy some property management companies? Kind of tell us your vision there a little bit.
Definitely not. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I grew up in a family of small business entrepreneurs. My grandma was a real estate agent. My grandfather was a CPA, and he bought a bunch of accounting firms. My other grandfather um, worked in food distribution and owned his own business. So I kind of had this uh, prototype of like what a career would look like. And I kind of took it a totally different direction originally. The first 5 years of my career, I was in the investing world, worked in New York and then worked in San Francisco, kind of investing in big public companies, which was fun and intellectually interesting, but I never really felt super fulfilled doing it. Like I always felt engaged and interested, but it wasn't like getting me fired up. So I went back to business school and kind of explored what else was out there. And I found this interesting model of entrepreneurship called entrepreneurship through acquisition. And I decided to go down that path. So I have some investors who backed me, and I spent about 15 months searching to find and buy a business. And ultimately, the property management space was one that fit our investment criteria. So I kind of looked hard in there and ultimately bought the first business in 2024. So that's kind of how we got there. It was definitely an acquired taste, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm
Okay,
happy I'm
Jazz.
here now.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love that so much because I want to stop right there and just pause and just kind of dive in a little bit deeper on the acquisition because I think that's can sound so foreign to so many small business owners that either wanting to do their own thing or be an owner of something or like and I think the default for most people is, well, I just need to quit where I'm at and go build something from scratch. And so I'm curious for you, what was the light bulb moment maybe that said small business through acquisitions the route I want to go? Was it because you had this investment background when you were constantly like from an analysis standpoint to take that leap, or what was the light bulb moment for you to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a combination of three things. So the investment part of me certainly thinks it's a good investment, and we can get into the reasons why. But like I when I could look at an existing business and see how it was performing and kind of know what I was getting myself into, I felt a lot more comfortable doing that than starting a business from absolutely nothing. And then the other part of it, I go back to my grandparents and kind of what I'm trying to get out of my career. The opportunity to lead people is something that gets me really excited. And stepping into the CEO seat on day one with a team, like I get to do that right off the bat versus having to take the product or service from kind of 0 to 1. So
Very cool.
there wasn't like a light bulb moment, but those were the things about entrepreneurship through acquisition that got me excited.
Well, Chaz, there's so much wisdom about what you just said. I think that I want to repeat that you almost have with the end in mind thinking, right? To say like, what do I dream about doing, and how can I speed up the process to get there as quickly as possible? And building the team, that whole concept. I just love that because, and I just want listeners to hear that when you're thinking about like if there's somebody out there that's dreaming about a business, there's more than one option of just like starting from scratch, going and knocking on doors to try to drum up income. You can go the route of Chaz, which I think is a brilliant model. I did the same thing. And so getting into business that way to kind of speed up that process. And it's not as hard as you think. I think there's a lot of people out there that be like, man, I have to like fork up so much money. It's like I put my whole life on the line to kind of do all this kind of stuff. So, do any other comments, I guess, from just the acquisition world that you've learned about?
Yeah, I think, I partly agree with that. It's not, how hard it is, how hard people think it is, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, good
But
point.
I think I actually don't think it's that easy to like get a transaction across the board in
Great
like
point.
a way that both sides are happy, right? Like,
Yep, great
maybe
point.
one time the buyer's happy and the seller's not, but like I think entrepreneurship through acquisition over the last 2 or 3 years has really kind of become more common, or people know about it more. And there's still some room to go there, but like I almost feel like the pendulum has swung a little bit from like, oh yeah, you could just go buy a business, like it's easy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's it's actually not like from the seller's perspective. You got to find the right buyer that can take care of your team and pay the right price and actually like get the deal across the finish line because they have the funds.
great
So there's
point.
a
Great
lot of
point.
things that have to fall into place. But if you have those things, then it is an awesome way to kind of fast track what you're looking for. At least what I was looking for in my career.
Yeah, Chaz, that is a brilliant, brilliant point because there's so many things that honestly are out of your control from the standpoint of just closing the actual deal that you have to walk through so much mud, I feel like a lot of times to get to that point. I guess and we've all heard to your point over the past 3 years, everybody on social media, "You buy a car wash, you buy a car wash, you buy a
Right.
car wash, laundromat, car wash, it's all easy," you know? In reality, it's not, and everybody be doing it if it was, you know? And so you brought up a great point, so I love that. Okay, let's dive in a little bit into the property management space because I love that that kind of fit the criteria of the investment side, diving in headfirst in 2024 for you to go do that. So kind of walk us through who do you serve? How are you thinking about growth? Like just y'all's kind of typical services.
Yeah. So we are a residential property manager, which means we'll manage any property with, call it less than like 25 doors. Our main value proposition to our customers, which are real estate owners that can range from like a more sophisticated investment group to just a person that maybe inherited a home or bought a rental home or what have you. We do everything. So we collect rent, we perform maintenance, we lease the property, we perform inspections to make sure that the property is in good shape. We will perform eviction services if needed. Our goal is to do everything that you would do as a landlord and then send our customer money once a month and have them hear from us pretty sparingly. Um, so that's our goal. And that's the same at both East Bay and Coachella Valley. Um, and we try to do a very good job of keeping our customers happy. And if you're not hearing from us, that's usually a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So what can you kind of coach us up? Obviously, I know you love building the team. So what does the team look like now? I mean, how, for a company in two different locations, kind of Northern California, Southern California, what does the makeup of the team look like?
Property management is extremely local, right? I find that our customers want to have someone who is on the ground, can drive to their house, knows exactly what this house is going to rent for versus this house on the block. And I preface your question with that because right now the two companies don't have a lot of interaction with each other because the customers, it's not helpful to the customers, right? Every decision we make is going to be focused on either helping the customers or helping the employees. And so far, like combining the two at the operational level just doesn't really fit the bill. So the team at Coachella Valley, we have 15 employees there. Some of them are in-house maintenance technicians. So we have, vans and we'll go actually perform work in Coachella Valley that saves our customers money because we can just deliver at a lower cost. And then we have folks that do leasing, speak to tenants, speak to owners, do accounting, and manage the maintenance team. At East Bay, this team structure looks very similar. There's just not an in-house maintenance team. That's something we'll probably put into place, but we haven't got the opportunity yet. And so there we have, kind of head of tenant relations, owner relations, accounting,
Yeah.
leasing, et cetera.
Okay. Do you treat them like two completely separate businesses, or have you tried to like consolidate any functions of the business into like a corporate office mentality?
So we just closed the East Bay business, the acquisition 2.5 months ago.
Oh, okay, super fresh. That's right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's brand new. I
Yeah.
will tell you, like the plan is to consolidate some back office stuff. So think like corporate accounting, probably a little bit of the trust accounting, HR and payroll, and then have like processes that we follow, right? Like, how do you do a move-in? And that's the same in both locations, but like, who's doing it, who's doing the process, and keeping the property level knowledge local is really important and is not
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that we'll consolidate. Yeah. And
Yeah,
also
so cool.
branding. Branding, we're probably going to keep distinct as well, just
Very
because,
cool.
the two names of the companies are very intentional. Like, we want our customers to know that, like, we are a local business. We perform work in this area. We know this area very well. So that's the plan.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's brilliant. I think once again, I think there's so much power in like understanding what your customer desires and running the play for that. Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think that's brilliant. Okay, so going back to kind of the acquisition talk a little bit with your team, I think a lot of business owners maybe walk into, well, if I buy a business, half the team's going to leave day one because they don't like Big Brother coming into town, whatever. Can you kind of speak to a business owner, or just kind of talk through your experience a little bit of now walking through two acquisitions and what that's looked like for you, just from a standpoint of like continuing with the culture, continuing with being the local company? Just kind of talk through that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we're not Big Brother. I think that's the
Yeah, yeah.
number one thing,
Sorry.
right? Like, we're
You're
still
not the
pretty,
IRS. I apologize.
or I mean, we're not there, but we're not also not even like a big company in the space, and nor do I want us to ever feel like that too much. So
Yeah, yeah.
my how I think about this is, we are coming in and we're buying really strong companies. And when you're buying really strong companies, you usually don't want to change a whole lot. And particularly, you don't want to change the team. Um, so my plan is to come in and assure the team that, you know, they've done a good job. We're excited about the acquisition. We're excited about the acquisition because of them. And then I go in and learn. And like, my plan the first 60 days of the acquisition, after the acquisition, is just to understand what's going on. And then
Very
after
cool.
that, we'll make some operational improvements. And what I mean by that is, usually it's along the lines of tracking things a little bit better, maybe putting in some technology to make jobs easier and more efficient. Um, and, putting in more standardized accounting practices and things like that. What we have seen is, at Coachella Valley, none of the leadership team has left. We've grown the team by two, and I think two employees of 14 when we started have left voluntarily. So that's been really great. And then at East Bay, we've retained everybody so far. Again, that's still pretty early, but signs are strong there. So look, I think like the bottom line is, I'm usually not going to buy a company if the team's bad. And if the
Yeah,
team's
exactly.
good, we're going to do everything we can to retain them, because they're what makes this business. And so we just really want to have them perform even better than they are now. We're not coming in to like increase the profitability through firing people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, clean it
That
up.
wouldn't work in this industry. And so we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's a great approach, Jazz. I love that. I'm curious also just to talk on the weeds a little bit because I've experienced some certain things differently in the past through acquisition because I played a part in that world as well. For you, when you're having these kind of back and forth negotiations to finalize the deal with the owner, did the team know those things were happening leading up to like the actual acquisition purchase date? Or was it something where like the day the deal closed, you and the owner walked into the business doors together and was like, "Hey, this is your new owner." I'm just curious how y'all played that out.
Yeah. More the second one
Yeah, yeah.
at the, or the second of your two. Like, usually 95% of the team doesn't know. At East Bay, no one knew. Coachella Valley, one or two employees knew. And that's really at the seller's discretion. Like, in general, I would prefer to get the opportunity to meet key team members before we close a deal, because I think it's helpful to just start to build trust. But usually the seller doesn't want that to happen, and we of course will respect that. So there's always like the day one meeting where I go in and explain who we are, explain what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, and um, those meetings are, you got to prepare a lot for them, but
Yeah, for sure.
they're always all eyes are on you type of moment.
Yep. So good, Chaz. Yeah, that's so true. And so I think, and to your point, I mean, I, the times I've seen it, it was done the exact same way. And a lot of times I think it's just in protection of the seller as well, because you might walk all the way to the closing table with somebody and then the deal still doesn't happen.
Right.
and all of a sudden you've introduced this dude that's never gonna do anything with your business to your team, and they're worried about something that never actually happened. And so, yeah, you just gotta navigate those things pretty carefully.
Yeah,
I think which is very smart.
then the team's like, "Oh, this guy's gonna sell, like, do I need to start looking for another job?" So, I
Yeah, for
think the
sure.
seller like, I totally get why you wouldn't want to introduce the buyer before the close.
1000%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, so obviously super fresh with second location, 2 years in or so, what with the first location. What do you feel like's the thing that you got momentum in that you're kinda like, "Man, this is what I love building this, we got momentum doing this, and we're gonna continue to grow."
Yeah. We've done a really good job with customer churn. So I mentioned our employee churn is low. I think the reason our customer churn is also low is because the customers are interacting with the same people they were before we did the acquisition. So we've done a really good job with customer service, keeping our customers happy and maintaining those relationships. Not easy to do in this space. There's a lot that can go wrong and kind of
Yeah,
having best in class churn is something I'm proud of. Um, Team retention, I put that at the top of the list. And then particularly at Coachella Valley, we've done a good job just growing the business organically. We've added about 100 doors on a net basis. So we've brought on a lot more owners than that um, since we bought the business, and really we've just done that by investing in sales and marketing, tweaking our messaging a little bit, and really just incentivizing our sales team to go out and grow the business. So those are some
yeah.
things that are going well.
That's so good. I think I've heard the phrase a billion times, but happy employees create happy customers, right? So, like when you're investing in your team and doing what you're doing, and and I think there's like you mentioned, such a correlation between team churn and customer churn, and I love that phrase so much. So on the flip side of momentum, I'm curious, like for you as a business owner, what are you waking up thinking about, spending a good chunk of your time from a bottleneck standpoint? What you're focused on?
Yeah, those are a little bit different. I mean, my biggest fears are that, a major customer leaves or, one of our star employees decides to move or
Yeah,
whatever. So those are like the scariest things. Fortunately, those are not the biggest bottleneck right now. I would say the biggest bottlenecks are one of them's macro. Like, not a lot of people are moving and renting homes, and that's hard for us, right? Like, we are one of our
interesting.
main jobs is to lease homes, and right now, the number of people moving or able to afford to rent at some of the places that we manage is not there. So, actually, doing our core function is challenging from a macro perspective.
Yeah.
Um, Closing, new leads, I mentioned we've added the 100 doors, but I kinda feel like we could always do a better job converting the leads that do come in. So that's kind of one bottleneck in terms of growth. And then, the last thing is we also look to grow through acquisition at the Grove level and, finding the right partners who may be interested in selling their business to us. I wouldn't say it's a bottleneck, but it's always a process to find those partners. And so those are some things that stand out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk for a second on the sales side and closing the leads. But I'm curious, like you said, in a fairly short amount of time, you've, especially from a percentage standpoint, increased your portfolio in the Coachella location fairly significantly. I- Do you think most of that has been through the sales and marketing efforts that you've put in, or has a lot of it come from like referrals, or where does most of that growth come from? I'm just curious.
Yeah, mostly sales and marketing. And we have I it's all kind of a circular equation, right? Like if the churn is low, then our lifetime value of our customer is high and we're willing to spend more to acquire customers.
Absolutely.
And so we kind of got comfortable that the churn is going to be pretty low. And so we've just pushed more money into sales and marketing. Maybe not great for near-term profitability, but we hope to own the business for 10 years or more. So it's a no-brainer for us to do that. So that's where most of the growth has come from.
Yeah, so cool. Okay, so obviously, you sitting in the seat of now essentially managing 2 businesses while also thinking about even acquiring another business, which is kinda wild. I just think about, like, man, how do you even have the time in the day to do that? I'm curious for you from a percentage standpoint, like, how much are you focused on operations and, like, kinda doing or, like, running the business versus thinking about growth, vision, going to where you're wanting to get to one day from an acquisition standpoint?
And right now it's like 80% operations.
Yeah.
maybe even 90, like
Okay.
digesting the second acquisition. And right before we did that, we also hired a kind of regional leader at the Coachella Valley location. And so,
Okay.
you know, making sure he's properly trained and doing a good job is also, takes time and
Yeah.
rightfully so. And then on top of that, like the complexity, general business complexity is definitely not linear as you acquire more companies. It's it's like, whatever, like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so just kind of figuring everything out takes more time on a day-to-day basis. So look, I'm actively hiring for a number of roles, ranging from having someone on my team at Grove as kind of a accounting and finance leader, hiring additional people at our operating companies to take some stuff off my plate because in reality, it should be flipped, right? I should be spending 80% of my time on growth and vision. But we're just kind of at a point right now in the company building process where I gotta, be a little bit more involved in the operations.
Yeah, for sure. And I think to your point, like everybody, because I feel that tension all the time too, where I'm like, man, my percentages for sure should be flipped. But it's just the seasonality of businesses where you have to put your intention to establish the culture and build the thing that you want to build that's going to ride the train for a long time. And
Right.
so, yeah, I love that. So, okay, going back to your vision a little bit of the 20, I mean, obviously, I know you're in this season only spending 20%, but do you have like a 10-year out, 5-year out vision through acquisition? Kind of talk to us a little bit about that.
Totally. I'll start with talking through my financial business partners, really. So Grove is backed by a company called the Nashton Company.
Okay,
And Nashton is a family office that was founded by two gentlemen who did a really successful they built a really successful commercial pest control business.
cool.
Um, they did that primarily through growing through acquisition, and they sold it. But after they sold it, they kind of looked back and they were like, "Hey, we think we can do something similar in a lot of industries, and we think it'd be even more powerful if we were able to hold it for a really long period of time." That vision resonated a lot with me, and so I bring that up to kind of hammer 2 points home. Is one, we truly have like a 20-year time horizon on this, um, and two, we're gonna grow through acquisition. But the actual vision for me is to have 3 to 5 markets in the next 5 years, and each of those markets have more than 1,000 doors. And the
Wow.
reason I wanna be kind of only a limited number of markets is this business is a lot easier if you have density, right?
Yeah,
If you manage the
makes
property
sense.
across the street from each other, it's a lot easier than managing the property like 2 cities away. And so that means I have to grow a lot organically, but it also means acquiring, kind of the property managers that are nearby if they're open to selling. So that's the goal. We also want to have the in-house maintenance component that I mentioned. It's really helpful for our customers. It also helps us generate additional revenue. And then we also sell real estate at the Coachella Valley. So kind of like a a very dense business in 3 to 5 markets with multiple services would be, I think, really interesting and a really valuable company in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious. So, like, from you as you think through that, what I just love thinking about this concept. But what does your leadership team look like? What if you get to that point? Let's just say 5 locations, each 1,000 doors. Like, how do you think about just the core team that's kind of running the play?
Yeah, I'm happy you asked that because as soon as I stopped speaking, I was like, you left out the most important part, which is the people who are actually running the business. So good question. Um, I am a believer in having a decentralized leadership model. And so each of those 5 markets will have a leader who will have a fairly significant amount of responsibility. Part of that's my own philosophy. Part of that's also, I think, what makes a good business in this space is each market's a little different. At the actual Grove level at that point, I think we will have a accounting and finance leader. We will probably have someone who's focused exclusively on organic growth and helping the salespeople at each of the 5 locations sell more. And then maybe we have like a COO or operating type of person to kind of coach and help the regional leaders. But that's it. I don't really feel like we would need super extensive leadership team at the Grove level because most of the action is happening on the ground, at the businesses.
Yeah, very cool. I love the strategy, Chaz. It's fun to think about that. And I think when you're thinking, any business owner, when you have vision for something, you have to think through like, who are the people that are going to help you get there? Because if you meet that person tomorrow that can speed up the process, then you got to be clear on exactly what you want long term, right? And so
A
I
hundred
think that's a
percent.
good
I
way
mean,
to put
I feel like my number one job, and I'm sure you feel this way too, is to be recruiting good people. So,
always.
like I know what the vision's going to look like, and if we find someone that's going to fit one of those jobs, like we'd hire them tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 100%. That's right.
we're always looking for folks that are excited about what we're up to.
Love it so much. Okay, so going back, as you look back, a year and a half, 2 years or so, what's something that maybe let me see the best way to phrase this, but that you wish you would have known about like protecting profit or like focused on margins in your business that's going to continue to fuel growth and treat your people really well, have greater impact than what you're called to do in those locations? Or what's something that maybe you knew when you started because of your investment background and you're like, hey, I want to track this consistently because I know this is going to create a healthy business.
I think the first one is where I had more blind spots. And I think particularly in entrepreneurship through acquisition, there are a lot of costs that you need to put in as the entrepreneur to professionalize the operation that you might not think about. So some things that I thought through were as basic as preparing taxes the right way, or maybe you need to have an auditor because your bank requires it, like building in that cost. Having the right insurance coverage, extremely
Yeah.
important. Sometimes there's gaps there, so having a good insurance broker who, understands the industry and, is making sure you're covered. Kind of the other thing is oftentimes in these small businesses, spouse is doing a lot, whether it's the husband or wife who's never not the primary owner is
Yeah. Yeah.
always
Yeah.
doing stuff like, "Oh,
Always.
yeah, yeah, they're doing HR and checking some stuff, but they're maybe working like 5 or 10 hours a week." Never. It's like 25, 30, 40 hours that like, you just need to either budget to hire or, like, know mentally that you're gonna have to do a lot of that work yourself.
Yeah.
So, those are some costs that you should be building into what you think the profit is when you're making an acquisition that oftentimes people miss, and I certainly miss those on I've done it a couple times now.
Yeah, so good, Chaz. I think there's like to your point, there's so many hidden costs. That's why the conversations I get to have a lot of time with these business owners is that whatever industry you're in, it's not just saying like, hey, we need to make a little bit of extra on what just my hourly rate is to go make some money and count that as profit because there's this whole thing about business called overhead that it takes to just keep the lights on about your business, and keep you safe and have the insurance and all the things. And so to your point, I just love that. In fact, I talked to a contractor the other day that just started his business. And he was like, man, the thing I didn't know about it, but just like me brand new without even selling a single thing yet, cost me about 7 to 8 grand a month just to keep the lights on about my business.
Yeah.
And you got to factor in all that into your pricing when you're actually doing that work for people to really allow you to sustain a long career in what you're building. And so I just love that mindset, Chaz. That's so good.
They could all add up too, like once you have 3 or 4 of those things, you can look at, $100,000 a year or more, which, can can impact like the cash flow of the company pretty significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in terms of metrics, like we track a bunch of stuff. Margins obviously at the top of the list, and then on the maintenance side, we'll track total hours worked, utilization, meaning like how much are we billing relative to how much we work. Like all that
So good.
stuff is has huge impact on profitability, and we try to keep a close eye on everything.
Love that, Chaz. And I want to dive just for a second deeper on that because I think in any service based industry, utilization is one of the best things you can track ever because it's to Chad's point, just to kind of explain this really, really quick. If you're paying somebody 40 hours a week, of the 40 hours that you paid them, how many hours did they bill to a customer that was a markup price of what you're charging the customer for? And so that's just the difference. And so the higher you can get to 100% utilization, the way more profitable you're going to be because that customer is literally operating as close to 100%. I don't think 100% is achievable all the time, but it's something that you're constantly striving to say, like, what's the healthy percentage that we're trying to execute with inside of our company. So I love that you're tracking that, Chaz. I think that's so brilliant. Yeah, I'm curious for you, from do you condense it down when you talk about profit and the different things from like a macro view of a business? Do you ever look at that on like a profit per door or profit per income stream or anything like that? Or you just kind of look at overall maintenance, overall PM side to say how are we trending from a profit standpoint?
I think about let me answer it this way. We use a operating system called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, to run the business, which I imagine some folks are familiar with. We have built our scorecard within EOS to track the right operational metrics that should roll up to having good business level performance.
Right.
And so that's kind of our like getting those operational metrics right is more of our North Star from a profitability standpoint, as opposed to looking at like, we're making this much per door. I, it's really like profitability per door, I think would be a little bit of a misnomer with the maintenance business included. Like, I really want
Yeah.
to think about like, are we serving our customers well? Like, are we actually like, is our maintenance business serving our customers? And if the answer to that's yes, then, we'll make as much money as we can kind of within that construct. So it's like not really, it's like a different business in a lot of ways. And then on the management side, um, we'll think more about like profit per door and revenue per door, because it's a little bit more like directly tied to the one, two, three, four, five homes, however many you're
Yeah.
managing.
So good. Well, I'm a huge fan, obviously, traction and the whole EOS system. And what I love about what you just mentioned, and just to kind of reiterate for the listeners, lead measures versus lag measures, right? So like the ability for you to track utilization rate a lot of times is a lead measure that hopefully will create a good profit margin from a lag measure once you get the P&L 30 days later. And I think that's just a beautiful way to operate is to say, as a business owner, I only should focus on the lead measures that I know are going to move the needle for the lag measure things that I care about. And
Exactly. Like,
so
I know we're gonna have a good
Mhm.
margin maintenance, right? Like, I could
That's
see
right.
we're running at 85, 90% utilization. Our techs are in the office every day. Like, we're good. Um, yeah,
So
that's the
good.
right way
Okay.
to look at it.
One
Yeah.
other question, because I know we're going a little over time, but I have one more question for you. And it's challenged me a little bit to just think through creative. I'm curious if you have an answer for this. So I just talked with a business owner where he had, he's retired and been, 40 years of experience in one industry building for a while. And his response to like, how do you maintain and create a really profitable business for a long period of time was just saying like he had an unlimited budget of taking care of his customers. So like he just went above and beyond to just say like, we're going to take care of our customers no matter what. And that obviously paid off incredible dividends for him. He sold the business and that did really well. I'm curious, like, have you had that approach from a standpoint of like, obviously you're investing in your team, like having almost like a slush fund, or if you will, or whatever, to say like, if my team sees a need of a customer, we have the ability to go serve them that way, or kind of tell me your thoughts, your principles behind like really wowing the customers as you continue to build these business and invest in your team to empower them to go do that.
Yeah. It's a very good question. We do, I think, is the answer to that, right? I the unlock for the previous guest, in my mind, is you had a 40-year time horizon. And if you
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
40-year time horizon, like, yeah, you're gonna spend $1,000 to either right the wrong you did for the customer, or, give them a gift, or, do whatever. And I would say we have that same mindset from a time horizon perspective. And so that allows us to make decisions, whether it's about employees or customers, that may hit the monthly or quarterly financials, but are going to benefit us long term. So whether that's a performance bonus for a particular employee that's doing a good job that, is really going to impact their life, and might impact the business for a month, but like in 10 years, we're not going to think about it and they've done really good work. Like, we'll make that trade all day long. I think the same is true for customers. Like, in a services business like property management, wowing the customer is so hard because like really our job is just there's like a baseline level of competence that your customer wants you to hit. And then like anything above that, I don't really know what it gets you. So we're always looking to treat our customers fair and correct. And like we will give, we'll correct our mistakes financially if we need to. Uh, and yeah, I guess that's just kind of the best way I can answer that question.
No, Chad, and I think that's
Yeah.
a great point because you got to understand about your industry. Because I feel somewhat similarly where in the world of account, I call ourselves we're the offensive line, right? It's like you do your job and you never get celebrated, but then when you get a penalty, everybody stares at you and says, "Kick him off the team." It's like
That's a great analogy. Yes,
and
correct.
so, and so, and once again, we signed up for it, right? So we want to do our job really, really well, and we got to build systems and processes so our team's happy and going out. Because offensive linemen can make a lot of money. It's like if they
Yeah,
do their job really well, you make a lot of money. But it's just one of those things that I just continue to go back to be like, okay, I'm not going to worry about like anybody celebrating us. We just got to do our job, and by nature, we're going to help the whole team move the ball down the field because we're doing our job really, really well. And so,
exactly the same
yeah,
for property management. It'd
yeah,
be more fun to be the receiver some days,
yeah,
maybe
exactly.
maybe in a different life that would have been either of our industries. But
Yeah, it's good.
yeah,
I love it.
I like what you just said.
Well, cool. What if people want to know more about you, Chaz, more about your company, more about Grow? Where's the best place to find you?
So gogrove.com, that's our website. You can reach me. I'm Chaz at gogrove.com. Certainly willing to chat with folks. And those are probably the two best ways.
Love it. Well, dude, this has
Yeah,
been an incredible conversation. Thanks for coaching me up just on what you're building. The whole acquisition mindset is just fascinating to me. I think a lot more people should consider like studying that up and kind of doing and following your lead in that world. But just appreciate you having pulling the curtain back and just having a conversation with us today.
of course. Happy to be here. And thank you very much.